Okay, this is the Node.js benchmarking meeting for September 21st. And in attendance is myself and Gareth so far. There are a few other people who indicated they could make this time, but we figured we should get started anyway. In terms of the agenda, I think we'll just go through a quick roundtable, then dive into the agenda items and go from there. So I guess I'll start. Haven't done too much since the last meeting. Have looked, did help out to fix an issue with the Acme Air benchmarks that we're running. You know, with Gareth's help, we fixed some scripts that had stopped working due to changes in one of the module dependencies. That's about it from my side. I guess no. The other thing I also did was I landed the matrix, which shows our use cases and key runtime attributes versus the benchmarks that we already have, which I want us to use as discussion in terms of, you know, where we focus on filling in additional test cases. Gareth, over to you.
Yep. So I've been working on a few different things. So the first one that we've got a pull request open for at the moment in the benchmarking work group is a prototype for being able to run a subset of benchmarks from the Node source. So that's the benchmark folder in Node.js/Node. Gibson is actually trying that out today, I hope. So
okay,
if he can give you a bit of feedback if it works okay and everything, we should potentially have a look at seeing if we could get that into Jenkins, so it's something that we can launch. We may have to have a think about how we can limit the amount of time or the amount of time that people can queue up on the machine, because if, for example, you were to just go and say run all the buffer jobs, that would take over 30 hours. So it would completely blow our budget of probably, I don't know, maybe about 20 hours a day is probably the time we've got spare on the machine at the moment. I should probably have a look and confirm that, but I think it's somewhere around an hour per node release, is it? I think what we're running at the moment.
Yeah, in around that. There's a few cron jobs and stuff too, but
yep. So that's one of the things I've been looking at. The last couple of days I've also been getting involved with a pull request that's in the Node repo, so it's 8576. So we got added or mentioned by someone there asking if we could run some of the Node API require tests. So I ran a few of those locally, and I'm not convinced there's anything there now. So I ran some yesterday, and it seemed to show that the PR was impacting performance, but I reran it again with more measures today, and it seems to show the other way. So I think
it's running the ones that we run in the nightly runs.
Yes, it is. It would. I might send you some stuff over to see if we could have a quick run on the benchmarking machine, just so I've got something to compare it to. Okay. But at the moment, it seems the numbers that I get out of the test are incredibly variable. So I'm not too sure how helpful that data is, and perhaps we need to have a look at if there's anything we can do to that test to make the numbers a little bit more reproducible.
Right. Now, they don't seem to vary too much in the nightly runs, right?
So, I mean, if you have a look at the chart, the dots do seem to go up and down quite a lot. Now, obviously, those are running all different versions of Node. So there's a chance that changes that we're making to Node are impacting it. But from the sort of the range of scores that I was getting, so I mean, the numbers that we get from the benchmark, it gives us the number of operations per second we're able to achieve. So the sort of range I was getting was on the cached job right. From 240,000 operations a second up to 290,000, And then for the new ones, this is where we go and clear the cache. We get between 30,000 and 33,000 operations per second. So it's a fair range, but again, that was on my on one of our local machines. So I've not had a go on the benchmarking machine. There may be something that's causing that to.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the results. They vary between, like, so for master is varying between 175,000 and 162. So there is certainly a reasonable amount of variation there.
Yeah. But no, I mean, perhaps if Michael was on, Michael Paulson, if he was on the call, he may, obviously he's the one who ran the test, he may have a bit more experience than I have, because I say, apart from looking at the results, I've not done too much with it apart from the last few days.
Right, okay.
But as part of the PR, there was a comment that it could be useful to get a module that has some native code included as well. So I'll have a go at writing something fairly basic there, and then perhaps commit that as an extra test that we could run if it actually shows us anything. We'll see.
What issue is that?
So it wasn't an issue. It's a pull request. So 8576.
PR 8576.
Yep.
Which had request to run the benchmarks.
Yeah. So I think it was Brian that added Node.js Benchmarking, and now we've been added to the group. It came through as a notification. So
right. Okay.
I thought I may as well have a go at doing that.
That's good. Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's mainly what I've been up to the last couple of months, I suppose.
Okay. So good. So that's roundtable. Moving on to the agenda items. So the actions from last meeting. So I guess Ali had an issue to look at the hydrogen issue mentioned by Gareth. I guess have you heard anything back from him?
I've not, but it's probably getting on a year since we discussed that first.
Okay.
I wonder if it's the sort of thing that we just need to accept that we've not had to do anything. As I'd imagine, the code base now has changed even more significantly since the issue. So I'd suggest probably, if you're happy with it, we can probably just drop that off future agendas.
Okay, so I'm just going to say it's been so long that this probably is stale, so drop. Okay.
Yep.
And Udemy to open issues for the activities mentioned. Also going to this one. It's been a while. Okay, so we'll just drop those two. Okay, so the next issue on the agenda was to review poll. Now I've actually already landed that, so I think it's more look at the doc and discuss how we move forward on the table. So basically the idea is that those two tables, okay, wait a sec, going back, that the table shows, we'd already defined our key use cases and our key runtime attributes, and the table basically shows, okay, here is the mapping between those and the benchmarks we already have. And I guess the question for us to think about is, what's the best way to fill in the table so that we have coverage of more of the use cases and more of the key runtime attributes. So looking at the gaps, so we have some, the first one, service-oriented architecture, we don't have any coverage. Microservice-based applications, we don't have anything. Generating, serving dynamic web page content. I think our Acme Air operations per second and Acme Air latency cover that.
Yeah.
Gareth, would you agree with that?
Yeah. One other test we could potentially do, just as a more basic serving web page content, is just to put together a fairly simple, like Hello World type application in Express.
Right.
And I've already got some JMeter scripts we could run for that, so I could go and include those, and just to give us another data point for web page.
Right. Okay.
Fairly easy to include.
Yeah, I think an Express type thing. I wonder if we can make it something more than a hello world, or is Acme Air using Express too?
Yeah, so Acme Air uses Express. So I suppose the other sort of thing that we could do is maybe use one of the other frameworks, so like Happy or something like that, possibly.
Right.
And then at least we're using
Okay.
I'd imagine probably under the cover they're doing fairly similar things.
Right. But I'm guessing that we should probably focus first on one of the areas we don't have any coverage.
Yeah. Okay.
Since we already have, I think that's a good idea. But I'm just wondering if, since we have coverage there, maybe it makes sense to the next one we do is one where we don't have any coverage at all.
Okay.
Single page applications by directional communication over WebSockets and or HTTP2.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything there. No,
we don't have anything there. As we're aware, the HTTP2 support is still under development.
Right.
What I thought I did have is put together something using the current HTTP module, and then as work is done on the HTTP2 side, we can then modify that. So try and have a HTTP1 and HTTP2 benchmark and have them doing similar enough things that we may be able to compare performance gains or drops when moving to HTTP2.
Right. So that one, yeah, we should look for, is there a WebSockets benchmark? And if so, maybe try and use that. Otherwise, try and write one.
Yep.
Okay, agents and data collectors, we don't have anything there. That one, I guess we'd also have to look to see if there's something out there just so that we know what the characteristics are.
Yep.
Small scripts. So this is, I think we've got some coverage in that we've got the requires. And start stop time. Actually, I think that should have been under small scripts, right? Or I wonder if that line shouldn't be down under key attributes. I'll have to go back and look at the different tables. Hold on, let's do that. I wonder if I just messed up in putting that table together. Runtime attributes, start, stop time, right. Yeah, I think that's okay. I'll have to fix up that table because it looks like it's not quite right.
Right.
Okay, so the start stop time should go down under the key attributes. Although I think the small scripts, the start and stop time benchmark kind of covers that a little bit as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely the sort of thing that if you've got a small script, you don't want to be paying a massive startup cost every time you learn.
So I'll fix that up. Memory footprint at startup. Yeah, and there's a typo I'll fix too.
I think, I don't know. I thought I'd already, maybe not. I thought I'd already corrected that at one point, but I don't know.
I'm looking at the version in the repo, so it doesn't look like.
Okay. So I changed that same text, but it was in the runtime attributes document rather than the.
Right. Okay.
The summary.
I'll fix up this page. So memory footprint is startup. Memory footprint after load metrics are collected. So memory footprint is startup. So we have the startup footprint. Memory footprint after load metrics are collected. Time of the pen. Okay, right. So Acme Air footprint after load. Node.js process CPU usage when idle. We don't have anything. Max throughput. So I think Acme Air gives us some coverage there.
Yep. I mean, the process CPU usage, that should again be a fairly simple, simple for us to be able to get.
Yeah, especially when idle, right? So
yeah, I mean, ideally, unless something's going really wrong, it should be pretty much close to zero. I imagine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. GC CPU use under load, GC allocation throughput under load, GC max pause times under load. Those ones are we don't have anything.
No, I think trying to get something in place for some GC metrics would be a good.
Yeah.
Because it's the sort of thing that could potentially be difficult to narrow down if a regression was to come in.
Right. Yep.
It's an area that we've got absolutely nothing that's looking at that right now.
Right. Install package size and size on disk once installed.
So
I think those two should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So I guess it depends how we're building. If we were to build Node using the sort of make binary option, that would give us already the install package size, I think, if we're talking about the r.gz. So we could potentially just modify how we're building Node at the moment, and then obviously unpack it and have a look at how large the install is as well.
Yeah, so those two should be relatively straightforward to put together as well. So probably the low-hanging fruit is the install package size, the size on disk once installed, and even the process CPU usage when idle.
Yep.
I think sort of next, then maybe the WebSockets one would make sense too.
Yeah. So the two for the install package size and size on disk, I think the code for building Node is actually in the Jenkins job itself. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would probably be something you'd have to.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll look at those two to see what we can do, how easy it is.
Okay. I'll have a look then at doing the process CPU usage.
Okay.
And I will start to look into how we would get extra GC information out of Node.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that gives us some. Let's just take a few notes there. I'm going to look at okay, so control. So what you said you were going to look at the GC ones?
Yeah. Well, I can do the CPU usage one. The GC ones, I'll need to look into how you get the information out before I go and commit to doing all those and finding it's going to be months and months of work. Hopefully, it won't be. But
okay. Okay. So that's good. Okay, now let's look at the open issues. Okay, that's the wrong one. Benchmark, there we go. Sorry, I'm still navigating to the right space. Issues, okay, so open issues. Next benchmark, we know. Easy Acme Air benchmarking setup. So anything new on that front?
no, so the Docker file is there and ready to go.
Okay.
It would be good if we Well, it'd be good if people could look out for potential pull requests where we could be running this to possibly. Well, at the moment we've not got the facility to add it to the into Jenkins, but it could be the sort of thing that someone could run locally.
Right.
Potentially, we could also, if the pull request for doing the benchmarks from the node source goes well, we could potentially be doing something similar for Acme Air, and whether that would use Docker or just use the stuff we've got already on the benchmarking machine, I don't know. But
right. Okay. Performance version of 2.6.2.
Yeah, I think we were waiting for someone to come back with. So I think we were waiting for Leo to get back in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not. Perhaps we can reach out to him to see how things are going. And
right now, I talked to him.
Okay.
He didn't say that anything. I'm going to add a comment in there. So I talked to. I think it was him. Interactive. We might just run the full air times. It was Leo, or it was. Let me just see if I can find his card here to make sure. Actually, I think it was Boaz that I talked. No. Yeah, no, it was Boaz. Okay. Okay, so not quite the same person, but sorry, I'm just gonna. Okay. Well, I'm just adding a comment to that issue. So definitely the tests were not written with, performance benchmarking in mind. In this case, I'm just not sure what we would do here. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to comment on that. We'll see what other people who are watching. So that one's still, I think, a wait and see anyway. Add release dates to charts. So I haven't done anything on that. Still think it's a good idea. Capture commit hash. Think it's still a good idea. So I haven't done anything. Micro tests. I don't think there's really anything there. Track startup speed. So is there anything we need to do this on this front? I guess we could change this, but what we've got is up and running. I think there's nothing new anyway on that one. We'll keep the discussion going. GitHub, regression of Vbor, Kraken, JS Bench.
Yeah, I was looking at it just a few minutes ago. I reckon that's related to the hydrogen issue. Yep. So I'll close that because.
Okay.
Yep.
We go. Okay, events benchmark tests. Let's see. Okay, some new benchmarks. Okay, we still haven't looked at that. JS Perf like tool for testing benchmarks. Okay, right.
So the benchmark JS, we already use that for at least the require cached and require new tests.
Okay.
Things like to go and install. We could, I suppose, we could compare it with BenchD, but I don't know how much has happened on that since this. So BenchD, which he says is a slightly modified version of Benchmark JS. So doesn't seem to be much that's happened there the past 10 months.
Right. Okay. I'm just looking. Right. So I think I might just close this as we're aware, right? And
yep.
okay. Benchmarks are V8. Add a comment to Ali on this next one about the 8-mid benchmarks. Makes sense. Just to see what Ali's input is in terms of whether that makes sense or not still.
Yeah.
Micro benchmarks, candidate benchmarks. Okay, I don't know that there's anything, well, certainly nothing new. Candidate benchmarks. So still some good stuff in there. Okay, and there's some stuff on the WebSocket side, which, you know, once we start to fill in the WebSocket ones would make sense. So that's nothing new there.
Yep.
Okay, so we've done the open issue review. We through and reviewed what? Reviewed what was new issues, couple. Okay, and then actions for the next meeting. So I guess really the only actions there is Michael and Gareth to, you know, work on the low hanging, on the benchmark. Okay, on the additional benchmark above. Okay. Okay, next meeting, I can set one for another 3 to 4 weeks from now. Anything else to discuss, Gareth, do you think?
I don't think so, no.
No? Okay. Great, well, thanks, and I'll talk to you next time, and well, before them as well, but
Yep.
talk to you then. Bye.
Yep. Right, cheers, bye.